So now that we've talked about all these strategies, we want to put them into play. We want to put providing choices, being communication ready, repetition, prompting, and limiting access into play across the school day. We want to share some ideas for when to use the strategies, but remember, it will be important to plan ahead. Plan who will be the prompter if needed and who will be the partner. One way to plan is to establish a set routine. You may already have visual supports established or even a visual schedule. We know that we will be teaching and expecting students to use vocabulary during academic instruction time, such as one-to-one instruction, things like discrete trial or pivotal response therapy, as well as during large whole group instruction and small group instruction. Let's look at a few typical routines across the school day. I've listed some in this slide, but we're only going to cover a few of these today. First one is morning meeting. Let me paint a picture of what I think a typical morning meeting circle time looks like. You've got 6 to 8, maybe 10 kiddos, some in wheelchairs, some sitting in bean bags, some in chairs, maybe one in a lap. The teacher's at the front. Maybe she's using a smart board. Maybe she's using an easel or a bulletin board. She has routines she goes through every single day. Everyone knows what is going to happen because the same routine is repeated every day. Notice I said repeated. That means repetition. So she asked, who is here today? How is attendance taken? Does everyone have a way to announce they are present? Is there a way that everyone gets to practice saying their name or maybe their peer's name by repeating who is here today every single day? Uh-oh, Johnny's AAC device isn't charged, so he can't say his name or tell who is here today. Are there visuals somewhere to support Johnny when this happens? Next, we move to the calendar. What's the date? What day is it? And what month is it? What year is it? How do students answer those questions? Are they given a choice? What if a student has a visual impairment? How can we help her choose what day it is? Maybe we could give her 2 number manipulatives, or perhaps we have numbers that have texture to them in a puzzle we could use. Who's going to hold the numbers out to her? We've got a plan for that. Can we expand Simon's vocabulary and sentence length by giving him a sentence strip that says, today is, and he gets to fill in the blank with an icon or a word? Next comes the weather. We talk about what the weather is supposed to be and what it is right now. Who gets to tell us what the weather is now? Is it Kaylee with a switch that has been programmed and someone prompts her to use by nudging her elbow? Okay, now we get to sing or say the Pledge of Allegiance. Who gets to lead the pledge? Is it Miranda with her AAC device that's been programmed by the speech pathologist, so all she has to do is push one button? How can the students help choose what to sing? Does the teacher call on Bailey, who looks like she might be asleep in her wheelchair? Or does she just pass by because the person who usually wakes her up has taken Jacob to the bathroom? What if she had pictures of the song titles printed out and could wake Bailey up and ask her to choose one? That allows Bailey to make a choice and participate. The teacher would be communication ready. Now, let's talk about some general things that might support communication during morning meeting. You can see we've got some switches here that have no and yes. We also have picture icons of weather and seasons. And then on the far left is a notebook. That is the morning meeting notebook that students can use to choose and pick out what day it is, what the weather is. And then over here on the far right, you see the student standing at the bulletin board, and she is making a choice. Who is here today? She gets to look at the temperature and choose the weather, what the weather looks like. So, what does repetition look like during morning meeting? Creating and using predictable, repetitious routines. Attendance, calendar, weather, song, book. Use a book with repetition in it or a song that repeats a line or has a predictive chorus. Use visual supports to let everyone know what is going to happen next. How about providing choices? What does that look like during morning meeting circle time? Think about giving choices during morning meeting, such as what song to sing, or whether we sit or stand, or whether we clap or snap or stomp. We also provide choices by asking open-ended questions that several students might be able to answer. We use sentence stems, things that they can fill in the blank, by providing everyone the opportunity to respond. How about being communication ready during morning meeting? What does that look like? Maybe we could have icons ready to go or a core board ready to go should a charger cord be left at home or a paraprofessional teacher might happen to be absent. And so the usual prompt at the elbow is going to look different today, but we are ready because we have our core board here that we can show, or we can show pictures of the weather. Being prepared and having multiple options for communication for the student and including that student, even if it isn't in the full way she can participate, is important. You don't just throw it all out because an adult isn't able to be there. You have to have plan B, the second line of defense, and what to do if a man is down in the field. How about prompting? What does that look like during morning meeting and circle time? That could be different for each student each day, but what if we plan what the prompt levels are going to be, and then perhaps even took data on how the prompts are fated? Use the opportunity to try less intrusive prompt than usual and see how the student responds. How about limiting access or sabotaging? Maybe ask a different open-ended question during weather that challenges the students to critically think, like what season do you like best? Or what season is Bailey's birthday in? Pull out the usual number of chairs and force a student to ask for help. By using repetition and routine in the beginning, you can stretch and provide the just right challenge later using sabotage or limiting access. Snack and mealtime. Snack and mealtime are my favorite times to practice language. Who doesn't like to sit around and talk and eat snack foods? I'm going to tell you one of my favorite snack time stories. Each day, as the speech pathologist for most of the students in one of the classrooms at the school where I worked, I would come in for about 20 to 40 minutes of snack time every day. I had a snack bucket that the teacher or the paraprofessionals helped me prepare. They made sure it was filled with 3 to 4 snacks that at least everybody liked and met all the allergy and feeding precautions. We also had placemats, paper towels, some wipes, gloves, and each child brought their own water bottle. Occasionally, we would have special juice or Kool-Aid day, but usually just water. Besides bringing their own water to the table, each student had their communication system. And I also had icons of all the snacks we used and pictures of cups of water. I would usually begin by making a big deal of whatever the snack was. Oh, we have Apple Jacks that are round and sweet. We have Cheez-Its that are orange and square. We have goldfish that are purple, gold, and orange. I would model for the kids, pointing to the icons and holding the actual food item up for them. Then I would sit and wait. I might smell the food or even take a bite of something, but I didn't ask them anything. At the beginning, I had help from 2 paras to prompt the students. They sat behind the kids and watched me to know when to prompt. Eventually, they didn't have to watch me anymore, and at some point, they weren't even in the room sometimes. The paras would prompt the students by nudging their elbow or doing a hand under hand to choose the picture of what they wanted. Then they prompted them to grab the sentence strip and hand it to me. If a student had a device, they would prompt that. If the student was verbal, they might model and say, "Hey, Miss Gretchen, I would like a purple goldfish." I would give it to the adult, and then they would prompt the verbal student to ask me. At first, the student would just imitate, but eventually it became spontaneous. At some point, we chose a student snack leader to take my place as the keeper of the snacks. I would prompt a whole different set of language skills. Sometimes we would remove a chair, or I would show up with no placemats or even no snacks. They thought that was hilarious for a minute and then would request snacks. One day, a student with autism who was nonverbal but gestured and was quickly learning PECs wanted a Cheez-It cracker. Unfortunately, she did not have a picture of the Cheez-It in her PECs book. She eventually chose the color orange, which was a squiggle of orange, and the cracker picture, which was a picture of a saltine cracker. And she handed me the picture of the orange cracker and said, "I want orange cracker," with her pictures. I knew exactly what she wanted, a Cheez-It. Snack and mealtime allow students to communicate not and want and more, and it's usually something very easy to reinforce. Here we have a picture of some icons, a student saying, "I want fruit snacks." Here we have another student saying, "I want goldfish," and there's different choices on this board. Or it could be a switch where the different snacks are put on each colored switch. Please support snack and meal time. Let's run through our strategies and talk about what that might look like. Repetition, using the same snack and the same snack routine. Keep the snacks each day for at least a week. Each child makes a request to the snack leader or snack captain for their preferred snack. Choices. Give different colored snacks, different shaped snacks. Ask them how many they want and then count those out. Be communication ready, having icons of the snacks ready, using a snack leader, honoring that request. How about prompting? We have to remember to fade those prompts, have adults model, have staff positively comment, and then verbally reinforce what is available. Limit access. Hold back the food and only give one or two at a time unless a student requests more. I would make students ask for the number of chips or Teddy Grahams that they wanted. Display the snacks in clear plastic boxes to prevent grabbing. Allow students to make mistakes and repair their own communication. Or give them a snack they don't like, so they have to negate or say no. Now that we've filled their bellies, let's move on to some academic instruction. Academic instruction. As an SLP, this might be a one-to-one pull-out therapy session, or it could be a small group, or it could also look like play therapy or pivotal response therapy. In the classroom, this might be a one-to-one station where discrete trial is being used to teach numbers, letter sounds, or specific vocabulary. It might be a small group progressing through the steps of a literacy curriculum. Stretch your mind's eye and your imagination on how you can support your students' communication. One picture that comes to mind for me is when we were using a reading curriculum that had the students reading words. There were very specific instructions for the adults, and then the student had to sound out the word or say the word. So how does a limited verbal or nonverbal student do that? The way we worked it was that student had an extra step in the curriculum. He had to learn the icon on his communication device for that word. So step 1, touch the word. Step 2, find the word in a field of 2. Step 3, find the word on your device. And step 4, say the word on your device. Another way using phonics approach is to have the student find the sound on their device or feel the letters if there's a visual impairment, or see how the letters are pronounced using visuals if hearing impaired. Another thing you can do is to use scaffolding, things like shared reading, sentence stems that fill in the blank, have students do individual reading, or phonological awareness. How do we support academic instruction? Let's think about our strategies. For repetition, using familiar stories that have repetitive lines like brown bear, you can develop those using Tar Heel Reader that I talked about earlier, or other adaptive book apps or website. Providing choices. Give the students opportunities to read the book aloud using their device or an app or an adaptive book. Ask them which book they want to read. Remember, you have to be okay with the choices provided. I had a student that loved scary things like zombies and vampires, and we found a book about bats. And we were able to read that bat book, especially around Halloween. And I programmed some of the vocabulary from the book into his device so that he was able to tell his parents and his friends about the book. Be communication ready. Be prepared. If you're working on phonics, make sure you know how to pull up the keyboard on the device or that you have the manipulatives or braille letters that are needed. Collaborate with the speech pathologist on how to program things into the device or what icon pictures need to be made, what size they need to be made, how transparent they need to be, what they need to look like, and what vocabulary you're going to be covering. She can help you by making an icon dictionary or helping decide what fringe or core words need to be used in an activity. Prompting for communication. Have any prompts ready and decide how the student will be prompted. Again, collaboration with the speech pathologist can be helpful here. Use that expectant pause, some call it time delay, to allow the student to process, think, choose an answer, and then find it in icons or pull it up in his mind. Then prompt. Task analyze the target, break it into very small steps, and then decide where to prompt. You can use your essential elements maps or the linkage maps, limiting access and sabotage. Teach the main word first by allowing the student to fill in the blank. We also know this is backward chaining when we are working on a task. So if you want him to say the answer is red, teach red first, then fill in the rest. Is red? Answer is red. The answer is red. Task analyze and teach using those essential elements and the linkage maps available from the DLM. Remember, planning and preparation is key. No winging it. With these students, communication doesn't just happen. We have to plan for it. How can we be strategic? The task itself must provide a solid foundation for communication interaction. We have to ask, what routine or activity am I going to use with this student? Know what supplies you need and gather them together near to where the activity will take place or in your apron pocket. Determine what vocabulary or communication skills to target is the next step. Some of that will come from your lesson plan or the curriculum you are using. Others will be specific to this student. Remember the 4 strategies we talked about. Decide how and who will use those in the activity or routine. General considerations. Make it fun and interesting. How can we make it motivating if it's not? Make the activity age respective, age appropriate. Be ready for unexpected events. Use natural environmental cues. It's not that hard. A typical 2-year-old makes 330 utterances per hour. That's about 5,000 per day. Do you think your students make 700 utterances per day? Some do, some don't. What about 250 per day? PECS only recommends 80 utterances, which typically means only 40 to 50 opportunities per day. What if your goal was only 5 to 10 opportunities per day, or maybe per hour? How would that look? Here are some of our planning templates and forms. We've shared the links with you, as well as some planning resources. So back to this kiddo. Our students are our why. We don't want this beautiful child to have to wait 84 years in order to say, Mama, I love you. We want her to be able to say that in what mode she can, as soon as she can. So plan, prepare, and be ready for communication. If you take our survey, we will send you a certificate once it is completed. Thank you for joining us for this presentation by Easterseals Outreach Program and Technology Service. ESOPS is a partnership between Easterseals, Arkansas, and the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education.